In the summer of 1994, 4 teens entered an abandoned building in Gravesend, Brooklyn. It was the last time they would be seen alive. With few clues and no witnesses, the case went cold. But for Anthony Brewer, the brother of one of the victims, the search never stopped. In 2024, he acquired evidence from the police that contained DNA samples that didn't match the teens. That discovery put his life and the life of his family in grave danger. Goosebumps, The Vanishing. All episodes now available on Disney Plus and Hulu on disneyplus.disney.com. Rated TV 14LB.
Guys, what's going on? Welcome to the Bird Brain Podcast, where the goal is to rise above it all, stay elevated, create that infinity, and up your you. I'm your host, Isaiah, and today we are going to spring clean. We're going to spring clean not just our wardrobe, right? We're also going to spring clean our relationships, spring clean our social media following, spring clean our habits. We're going to do a lot of deep cleaning today, and I think it's going to be worth really paying attention to the whys and the whats. And I've talked about this in a roundabout way previously, but it's something that I've been paying attention to myself recently and doing a deeper dive, right? Because, healing and growing and, evolving, all that stuff doesn't stop. You just reach a new layer of accountability and a new layer of awareness and you pick and choose what you're going to do with that. All right. So if you're driving, put on your seatbelt. If you're at home, put on your seatbelt, get some water, and we're going to get into it. Okay. Stay tuned. Guys, what's going on? Happy March. Before we get started, I wanted to let you guys know I will be hosting my first Zoom live workshop Sunday, March 12th. And it's all about building your confidence, right? Building your inner confidence, finding your inner voice versus the one that's kind of, roaming around in your head, calling all the shots. And I think it's a very important practice to understand and recognize, because it will effectively remove you from a lot of places, invite you into other places, but you'll rewrite your narrative in a lot of ways. It's very helpful, and it's something that I do and I practice, and it's been very beneficial. So I will be hosting a Zoom live workshop. You can register. The link is in the bio of this episode, the description, or follow the Bird Brain Podcast, the Instagram, and the information is there as well. Yeah, and I'm excited, and I'm glad that you guys reached out and asked, hey, when's there going to be another workshop, or etc. And well, I am here to make on promise. So yes, this workshop is happening. It's going to be good. It's going to be informative. It's going to be effective, infectious. So yes, sign up. And just be prepared to learn something and grow, and be prepared to have a good time. It's going to be a good time. I'm excited. I do enjoy doing these things when the opportunity arises. So, yep, get to it. Now that we got that out of the way, lock your doors, check your windows. I miss the night owl. I really have to get back to that, and I will. It's funny because it's what I've understood about myself is, and this will probably tie into what we're talking about today. What I've understood about myself is that I only have so much time. I only have so much energy. So usually when I'm doing certain things, other things, I don't want to say fall by the wayside, but they get kind of put to the side. And it's usually with good reason, right? It's not just me saying, oh yeah, I'm done. Night owl is my baby and always will be. And, you need the thing about it, guys, is You need rest to be creative, right? You need rest to function. And rest doesn't just always mean sleep, although that's a big component of it. Rest means peaceful relationships. Rest means, having a better diet. Rest means making sure you're hydrated, right? Rest means stress management. Rest means emotional regulation. Rest means being cognizant of what you are subjecting yourself to, right? Rest means what you're saying to yourself, right? Rest means what you are involved in and how is that taking care of you? How is that beneficial? And I think of episodes back, I talked about the concept of spring cleaning, right? Cleaning out things. There's this concept of like, I heard it years ago, but basically they said, if you haven't worn it in a year, throw it out, get rid of it. And the same thing applies to like papers or things that you just have lying around. If you haven't used it in a year, throw it out. And some people may not agree with this, but in certain ways, the dynamics of relationships go that way too. There's the quote, I love those friends or people that you don't have to talk to for 6 months to years. You could go years without talking to, and you pick back up where you left off. And I've never agreed with that because I have those people, right? I'm grateful when we do cross paths with each other and it's like, oh, how's things going? Catch you up. But do I consider them a friend? Not necessarily. They might be an acquaintance at that point or an associate, right? Or somebody I had history with. And it is not necessarily bad blood, right? That's not it. But what I just understand in terms of friendship for what it means for me, it goes deeper than, a conversation annually, every few years or months. It's like, that's a very dormant relationship, right? And although, I don't see people as disposable, I can recognize that the relationships with them have passed their expiration date, right? So I don't really hold this tight to those bonds, or have certain expectations moving forward, right? And I think because for me, like I said, there's so much that I do on any given day that my bandwidth for people in general is kind of limited, which is why my relationships are very significant to me, right? Because I'm like, this is the energy that I'm pouring out. This energy could be somewhere else, but these are the people that I'm devoting it to, right? These people are my people, and I want to give them as much as I possibly can because they matter that much to me. And that's a choice that I'm making. Like I said, we all make choices. And I think sometimes people don't understand that because you have the ability to make choices or because you do make active choices, it doesn't seem like you're really making one in a weird way. Again, it goes back to the person that's single, right? Singleness means that you have all the time in the world. You're not as busy as your friends or people around you that have significant others or children or whatever the case may be. Again, a significant other is a choice. Children, a choice in many cases, right? You don't come into this world married. You don't come into this world with a boyfriend or girlfriend. You come into this world as you, and then you go out into the world and you kind of attach or you connect with who you connect with. And I think that's a concept that's very important to understand. And everybody sees things differently, and that's something that I've understood. So what I've stopped doing is trying to hold space for things and people that don't seem to value relationships the same way I value them, right? And it's not a demand, it just is. It's like, if we're not communicating the same language, then we are not really going to have the most successful relationship, because your value system and mine are very different. It doesn't mean that it's better or worse, it just means that it's different. So in that space, right, it's important to ask yourself, who am I holding on to? What am I holding on to, right? What doesn't fit anymore? Even on social media, there's like this weird entitlement or expectation on social media is like, we follow each other, we never communicate, but if you remove me, I'm now offended. And it's like, but you haven't been an active participant in my life whatsoever. So why do you feel the need to surveil it? Like that's weird to, again, come Isaiah personally, that's weird to me. It's like, I don't keep people around as fixtures or placeholders. It's not a desire for me. And also we have to ask ourselves, are we holding on to past people because there's a hope that they eventually change for us? Right? The thing about it is this: people change for themselves. And if somebody hasn't really made the adjustments, people don't change, they grow, right? They grow more into themselves, or they spend the rest of their lives deviating. So, but in this concept, for the sake of argument, people don't change for us. People change for themselves, right? And what that looks like is like, if I recognize that this relationship is important to me, or I recognize I want to be a better person, it will behoove me to make some adjustments to who I am and my pattern behavior, or try to remedy the situation, or apologize, or, hold myself accountable, do the things necessary that holds my integrity intact, right? Or makes me a better friend, or makes me a better spouse, right? Or makes me a better parent, makes me a better sibling, a better relative, doesn't matter, right? Makes me a better person. I have to do what I have to do to make that happen. But I'm going to do that for me. And sometimes we are holding on to these relationships in the hopes that a person eventually comes back around and sees the error in their ways. Truth be told, y'all, people spend a lot of their time justifying their behavior. That's how we get through life, like, right? Rationalization. If I say that I'm not going to eat Oreos, right? And I love Oreos. If I say I'm not going to eat Oreos and I'm like, damn, but I really want Oreos. What I'll do is like, all right, cool. Well, I haven't had Oreos for these 10 days. The Oreos can't hurt, right? It's not that deep. So I get Oreos. I end up getting what I want. And people also behave that way in their relationships, in a sense of like, well, I don't really have to apologize. I didn't do anything wrong, right? They took it personal, or, we aren't that good of friends anyway, so it's not that serious, or insert whatever, right? We make reasons to justify our behavior in life. So if you're waiting for somebody to change, you have to understand you haven't made the change, right? And think about how hard change is for you, right? Growth is uncomfortable. That's why a lot of people don't do it. Growth is a very interesting, scary process, I will say, from experience, and even in the last year, I've had to grow a ton. Emotionally grow, right? My hair's growing. Even that's I think symbolic for me. Just let my hair grow. It feels cool. It feels different. It's something that's out of my usual, and I like it. I really like it, right? But the growth that I had to do looked like me growing in the space of recognizing my responsibility in the people that I keep around, or trying to have deeper bonds with people that didn't want to, or that didn't have the capacity to, right? People are going to do their own thing. And sometimes people don't get what they don't got. Sometimes you can't get a deeper relationship from a person who's not really interested, right? Who hasn't really gone there within themselves, right? And we have to recognize too, it's not always the other person. Relationships are by invitation only. All right. So when we invite a person into our lives and they turn out to be exactly who they are from the very beginning, but we put on peripherals, right? We put on blinders, and we had this idea of who they should be. So we kept this veil over our eyes of who this person was. Or what the situation was, until we eventually get bitter and resentful. Now it becomes the other person, right? You invited that relationship. So at what point are you going to change your wardrobe and recognize, all right, cool, what am I doing that's kind of affecting me? Or, right, what have I been storing that doesn't suit me, that doesn't fit me anymore, right? What am I wearing that doesn't fit me? And that could be literally and figuratively. right? Am I still blaming other people for things? And there's a difference between placing blame versus like just recognizing the situation for what it is, right? I could say, yeah, that whatever happened wasn't cool. I didn't deserve that. All right, moving on. What do I deserve now? And if I deserve better, do I still keep that person around? Because it gives me a reason to not do better. You get me? So when it comes to spring cleaning and deep cleaning, it's a deep clean of yourself as well. And that's the part that people miss. And I see it and hear it all the time. And I try whenever I talk to people, even with my clients, it's all about accountability, right? Because the thing about it is this: you are in the driver's seat of your life, right? That person you're waiting to apologize, that person you're waiting to come back around, they may never come back around and or apologize. So what are you going to do about that, right? How are you navigating life since then, since that incident? How are you kind of moving through life now? What's that look like for you, right? Is it still you kind of harping and hoping, or is it you saying, all right, cool. That was a interesting lesson for me. I don't want to experience it again. So that person, I'm going to kind of keep at bay. And even if they come back around, you don't necessarily have to kind of allow them back into your life. And that's how life works too, right? We're all growing at different times. And while people are like, yeah, well, people change. Yes, people change. And the other person is not waiting around for them to do that. Right? It goes both ways. We grow at different times. So if I was ready for a relationship when you weren't, now I have to bypass that. I have to get past that and recognize, all right, you're not ready. All right, so we're not ready for each other. So when you're finally ready, I really get to decide whether or not this relationship goes forward. And that applies to all people again. But it also requires me holding myself accountable, right? What are your habits? How are you not showing up for yourself outside of your relationships, right? What are your daily practices? What do you say you're going to do when you don't do it? And then how do you justify that? Right? Oh, well, I was tired. I didn't have enough time, or whatever the case may be. But we want people to make so much time for us, right? But we don't even make time for ourselves. Oh, if we wanted to, they would, right? If they wanted to, they would. Okay, so how does that apply to you? Right? If you wanted to, you would, right? So what you're saying is you haven't really wanted to. All right, call a spade a spade. But as long as you have the awareness and the honesty about how you move through life, right? Because it'll always be somebody else's fault and always be somebody else's work if we constantly look externally in terms of what's going on. Overlooking that our external world usually reflects back our internal space. Right? The relationships we have, how we navigate all of that. And I'm not perfect. I'm no expert, but I will tell you this. Life is a little bit more peaceful for me, y'all. Life is much more peaceful for me for a lot of reasons. You know, I do the hard things. I say what I mean. I mean what I say, right? I am very intentional about my relationships, and I make it a point to keep intentional people around me, right? I don't have time to just have people in my life for no reason. And like I said, it's not, I don't see people as disposable, right? I definitely don't see people as disposable. You know, it's that quote of like, I don't need you in my life. I want you there, right? And even though I may not need people, I still want them to feel like they matter to me. And I want them to know that they matter to me. And I will do that in every capacity that I can. But the not needing people comes from when I recognize that a person doesn't know how to treat me well in return, or show that same extension of, you know, care and value, right? I don't need you here. I want you here. You know, my working so much to make sure you feel at peace in my life and doing my best, doing right by you, is because there's a want there. I want you in my life, and if I can, for the rest of my life. But I don't need you there. And if you don't feel the need to be here, I'm not going to keep you, right? That's what spring cleaning looks like, y'all. You know, not holding on to things longer than their expiration date, or not trying to fit yourself back into something, or trying to fit yourself back into a relationship, right? You have to be okay with expansion. And while growth can be scary because you run the risk of losing people, it's true. Right? Sometimes we're so afraid to grow because we recognize that we may have to let go of people, places, and things. Growth is scary because it's like a flower in a pot, right? If it's a particular flower, you'll eventually have to repot it. if you don't drown it first, like Isaiah Frizzell, you have to eventually repot that plant, right? And we are plants. We just talk, but we are plants. We got to be nurtured. We got to be watered. Otherwise, we rot from the inside out, right? So it's important for you to ask yourself and recognize what the spring cleaning looks like, because, some people are like, yeah, I'm getting rid of all these toxic people, but you keep having all of these toxic people. How does that keep happening? What is the common denominator? What are my habits? What am I not looking at? Because even though you keep experiencing the same person in different bodies, that indicates a few things. One, a lot of people are kind of eager to be like everybody else and they move the same, right? There's no accountability. But also you keep attracting them into your life, or you keep cultivating relationships with them in your life. We attract a little bit of everything, I believe. But what we keep is basically a reflection of where we are. You get me? So that's also something to consider as well, right? The phone calls are coming from inside the house. I say this all the time. And the more you start to understand that, the easier life gets, right? Easier in the sense of like, I don't stay in spaces I'm not welcome in. I don't welcome people into spaces that they don't know how to take care of. I don't hold on to things. I recognize what I want my environment to look like. I create peace for myself. I am an advocate for my own peace. And once you understand that, you accept that, things start to look and feel a little bit different. There's a little bravery there, right? You're not afraid to change things, and you don't do it out of malice. You do it out of necessity, right? Because if it's one thing we need in this life, at some point in time, we need to feel like we're at peace. We need to feel safe. We need to feel like we matter in this world, and we need to be around people who value us. Okay? Those are needs, and we need to take care of ourselves. Okay? That's a big need. So just things to think about. All right. I hope you guys have an amazing week. I hope you guys check out the workshop, and I hope to see or hear from some of you guys. If you have any questions, like I said, the information is on the Bird Brain Podcast Instagram. Go follow that. But the information is the link in the bio is also going to give you what you need. And if you want to become a Patreon supporter or Apple subscriber, Flight Club, let's go. You get bonus content, ad-free, and early access to these episodes. And what else? The coloring book is still available. I got featured as the Black author at Barnes & Nobles, which was pretty great. That's a big deal. That hasn't hit me yet, but it is something that I value and I'm really grateful for. And what else, guys? I feel like I'm forgetting something, but if there's one thing to remember, life is full of change. We go through seasons, and it's important to always prepare for the seasons, right? There are seasonal people, and then there are seasons within relationships with people. You have to decide which is which, okay? And that depends on how you move through life too. All right? Take care of yourselves. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Take flight.